You want to watch the best shooter in college basketball. It's Caitlin Clark.
Her basketball IQ.
Christmas morning was meant to be calm. No breaking news, no drama, no frantic meetings. But right at 10 o'clock, Nike released a 30-second commercial that shook the entire world of women's basketball. Screens buzzed, insiders scrambled, and in private offices, a storm began brewing that had nothing to do with scandals or misconduct. So how did a simple, polished advertisement trigger panic at the top of the league? And what happens when one athlete's image suddenly appears bigger than the system built around her? What seemed like an ordinary holiday ad turned into something much more disruptive. It revealed who truly holds influence now. And once that truth came into focus, there was no way to hide it again. The Christmas surprise. To fully grasp why this moment landed so heavily, you have to look at everything the WNBA had endured in the
So we are moments away from this historic occasion, the debut of the WNBA.
The 2024 season turned into pure madness from beginning to end. Historic television ratings clashed with non-stop controversy. Tension inside locker rooms exploded onto social platforms. Fan arguments online felt less like normal sports debates and more like full-blown celebrity rivalries. The league found itself balancing on a thin line between massive popularity and total internal chaos. Executives at the highest level were completely worn out. The holiday pause felt like a rescue. It was an opportunity to cool things down, reshape the story, and return in January with renewed energy. League leadership hoped NFL results and NBA Christmas matchups would take over the spotlight. The plan was for women's basketball to slowly slip out of the headlines for a peaceful stretch. But then Nike stepped in and made sure peace never had a chance. The advertisement launched with zero warning to the league. No coordination with official team pages. No prepared statements from
Beyond the logo! And a little point afterwards!
Nike spoke straight to the people with a sleek, fearless, completely confident message that placed Caitlin Clark directly in the spotlight. The visual production was breathtaking. Icy winter scenery filled the screen. Falling snow added mood and drama. A sense of history and culture flowed through every moment. Famous guests appeared whose fortunes alone could buy several WNBA teams without hesitation. This was far beyond an ordinary sports advertisement. This was Nike declaring to everyone that they moved on their own terms and did not need permission from any league. The film followed Caitlin Clark's path through meaningful places. Her early home streets in West Des Moines, where her shooting dreams began. The University of Iowa grounds, where she rose to greatness. The Indiana Fever Stadium, where she was reshaping the professional game. Every single scene.
The moments that you never take for granted and you kind of just want to stay in for forever.
Every moment carried weight, and every frame spoke volumes in a way that made the WNBA leadership deeply uncomfortable. The phrase "from anywhere" was far more than a catchy slogan. It was a bold statement of freedom and self-reliance. It made it clear that Caitlin Clark's impact reaches far beyond arenas, far beyond organizations, and far beyond borders. Her influence is self-made, not granted by any league or authority attempting to attach itself to her success. But what truly sparked outrage was not what the advertisement showed, but what it purposely left out. And it's important to recognize that the issue had nothing to do with the actual content of the commercial. What appeared on screen was uplifting, respectful, and perfectly fitting for a global sports icon. The anger that reportedly exploded inside league offices was triggered by something Nike carefully, intentionally, and strategically chose not to include in those 30 seconds. This detail explains everything about why the commissioner was said to be furious on what should have been a calm holiday morning. When you watched that commercial, absorbed the beautiful winter scenes, and heard the confident from anywhere message, did you realize what was absent? There were absolutely no visible WNBA logos anywhere in the entire advertisement. Not 1 second featured league branding. The moments that you never take for granted and you kind of just want to stay in for forever. There was not a single reference suggesting that this superstar belongs to any broader institutional system. No imagery linked Caitlin Clark to the larger structure of professional women's basketball that technically employs her. The entire commercial was built solely around Caitlin Clark as an individual. It was presented in a way that made the league appear completely unnecessary to her journey, her achievement.
Indiana Fever basketball is oh so close. Training camp began this afternoon at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
The identity of the league is treated as far more important than any individual star, regardless of how popular that player might be. Publicly and in theory, every member of the roster is meant to receive equal attention, because the core belief insists that no single athlete should rise above the collective product. On the surface, this philosophy appears noble and well-intentioned. It presents itself as balanced, cooperative, and protective of all involved. It promotes the idea that women's basketball is built on unity and mutual effort instead of personal fame. Yet this system quickly falls apart the instant a true generational talent emerges and refuses to remain confined by those.
Some shots.
45 blocks last year. Clark for three.
Nike's Christmas advertisement made no attempt to gently challenge the idea of putting the collective above the individual. Their message was not hinted at or delivered quietly between the lines. It was delivered boldly and confidently in stunning, cinematic fashion. They did not present Caitlin Clark as simply another gifted athlete within a long list of talented players. Instead, they lifted her far above the structure of the league itself, portraying her as a figure whose impact stands apart from any organization or governing body. She was placed side by side with global male icons whose fame reaches far beyond their respective sports, inviting viewers to recognize her as equally worthy of that level of recognition. To audiences everywhere, Nike made it unmistakably clear that their loyalty, their resources, and their long-term vision for women's basketball are centered on Clark as an individual star, not on the WNBA brand, not on league executives, and certainly not on any commissioner who believes they control the storyline. From that perspective, it is easy to imagine how unsettling this moment must
be. People thought I ran into her on purpose, which, why would I ever do that? I don't know. But yeah, it definitely gets annoying.
Your whole responsibility is centered on keeping balance in a league that has rarely been calm or predictable. You are expected to safeguard the shared reputation that has taken many years to carefully build. The power you hold is based on the belief that important choices about how the league and its athletes are shown to the public must pass through your office for guidance and approval. Now picture seeing the most powerful sports company in the world openly declare that your approval has no value to them, that they do not require your consent, that they have no interest in your suggestions, that they will promote their athlete in whatever way they choose, no matter what you believe is best for the league you manage. That does not come across as simple promotion. It feels more like a direct challenge to everything you stand for. Nike never requested approval before launching this advertisement. They never shared early versions with league officials for feedback. They made no effort to align their message with WNBA media teams who might have recommended including a logo or a slogan supporting women's basketball in general. They never even acted as if this commercial was meant to highlight.
Use that technology wherever they go.
They chose to highlight and honor the shared accomplishments of every skilled woman competing at the professional level. The decision to release the commercial on Christmas morning was deliberate, timed perfectly for when league officials would be out of the office and slow to react. They allowed social media to spread the message and shape the discussion while those who believed they controlled the storyline were left rushing to understand what had suddenly disrupted their carefully managed image. By the time anyone with real authority was able to prepare an official response, the advertisement had already reached millions of viewers, and its impact had been firmly established in the minds of the audience. The statistics that followed in the first 24 hours told a powerful story that could not be twisted or ignored. Caitlin Clark's Nike campaign produced more interaction in a single day than many rival league projects had achieved over their entire lifespan. The difference was not small, it was massive. These were the kind of results that make presentation slides quietly disappear because no executive wants to explain how a long-term strategy was completely overshadowed by a short shoe commercial. The engagement levels were astonishing. Social media exploded with discussion, and major sports networks that had planned to overlook women's basketball were suddenly forced to pay attention. Yet the figures revealed something far more troubling. They exposed a reality the league had tried to avoid accepting. The WNBA did not create Caitlin Clark's popularity. They did not build her following or develop her image. Instead, the truth was the reverse. One player was carrying the entire organization forward. Without her, the surge in ratings, attention, and cultural influence would likely fade just as quickly as it appeared. Once that realization sets in and everyone understands who truly holds the influence, the balance of power changes entirely. The high production value of the commercial only emphasized the gap even more. It felt like a Super Bowl-level advertisement, filled with top-tier creativity, major financial backing, and a clear determination to present Caitlin Clark.
Man, frustrated that a foul wasn't called.
At the same time, her actual league continues to wrestle with basic production shortcomings on its broadcasts. Limited media deals mean that only a fraction of fans can actually tune in to games. Player paychecks remain small compared to what athletes can earn through outside sponsorships, like the one Nike recently highlighted. That campaign did more than sell shoes. It exposed the stark gap between personal brand value and what the league pays. It forced uncomfortable questions about revenue distribution and who truly benefits from the growing popularity of women's basketball. A deeper struggle over control and influence looms. The timing of this ad only amplified the pressure on the commissioner. Recall the equity-driven basketball initiative hailed as revolutionary, marketed as the future of women's sports. The same project that league officials publicly promoted as the solution to limited off-season exposure and the
I mean, to have that highlight of that day. Yes.
Behind the scenes, that organization had reportedly offered Caitlin Clark a deal unlike anything she had seen. Massive financial incentives with barely any commitment, positioning her as the centerpiece of their entire brand. They hoped her fame would instantly legitimize the league. Clark, however, declined without hesitation. At the time, many believed she was missing a chance to boost her profile and grow the sport, choosing comfort over responsibility. But when Nike released their Christmas commercial, it shattered that assumption in just 30 seconds. Clark didn't need that league. She didn't need approval from any commissioner. She didn't need anyone's validation to become the most marketable player.
She's the dominating force, reshaping the landscape of college basketball.
Nike was showing in real time that her worth is real, regardless of any league or organization's recognition. And that kind of independence is exactly what makes executives uneasy. As a commissioner handling contract talks and long-term growth strategies, seeing your top player prove she doesn't rely on you is a nightmare scenario. Suddenly, every athlete, agent, and labor negotiator has undeniable proof that big money exists in women's basketball. It's just not passing through the league's standard systems. Team owners weren't thrilled either. When your most valuable star sparks a marketing frenzy and none of that revenue reaches your pockets, serious questions arise instantly. Where are
or being sponsored by Nike or something like that, or getting free boots from Nike or whatever.
Why was this never discussed with the franchise leadership? Why does it feel like we're on the sidelines watching Nike benefit from a player we technically employ? These questions don't come with easy answers, and the commercial forced everyone to wrestle with them during what should have been a calm holiday period. Traditionally, the unspoken understanding between sponsors and leagues has been collaborative. You elevate our brand, we elevate yours. You sell merchandise, we draw fans. Nike's ad completely shattered that gentleman's agreement. The locker room reaction. Now, think about the other athletes in the league and how this message landed for them. Consider the seasoned veterans, the proven winners, the decorated stars who have carried this league for years. Many of them are Nike endorsers as well, and each feels equally entitled.
The way the shoe looks is like nothing else on the shelf.
The disparity between what Clark received and what the rest of the players were offered was impossible to ignore. Her promotional campaign felt like a red carpet movie launch, while any endorsement material for others, if it existed at all, came across as mere contractual formality. Whether fair or not is irrelevant here. In the world of sports marketing, perception shapes reality. and the image of Nike providing one athlete with premium treatment while longtime players received only baseline support ignited resentment that was already simmering beneath the surface. Veterans who had carried league responsibilities for years watched a rookie, barely through her first season, receive marketing attention usually reserved for legendary figures at the height of their careers. Bitterness doesn't need justification, it only requires clear inequality, and Nike delivered it in striking cinematic clarity for all to see. Meanwhile, the commissioner had spent 2 seasons trying to preserve locker room harmony through controversial player contacts, pointed accusations, and social media clashes between camps. The league was teetering on the fine line between healthy rivalry and outright internal chaos. This commercial didn't just disrupt that balance.
The feisty Maryland squad at first. Get a trap here.
Threatened to unravel everything. From now on, every intense challenge against Caitlin Clark is scrutinized through the lens of resentment. Every on-court clash is interpreted as bitterness rather than competition. Each physical play fuels wider discussions about favoritism and injustice. When the game shifts into a stage for societal debate over recognition and respect, the quality of play suffers and the commissioner is left with the near-impossible job of uniting a locker room where some athletes feel celebrated by the world's largest sports brand while others
Gets it back from Agumake.
Nike's marketing team did not set out to create controversy deliberately, but they were equally indifferent to avoiding it. When it came to the legacy question, Nike pushed past simple favoritism and boundaries. The ad made no gestures toward WNBA history, offered no tribute to the pioneers who laid the groundwork, and ignored the ceremonial acknowledgement of players who fought for decades to make professional women's basketball sustainable. Tradition was entirely bypassed. The campaign asked for no historical approval, sought no consent from the league, and simply presented Caitlin Clark as the new face of the sport, daring anyone to disagree. For longtime fans and former players who valued the legacy built through years of dedication, it felt like a total erasure of their contributions. This presented another nearly impossible challenge for the commissioner: how to keep veterans and past players.
16. The game just starts.
Their legacy is being sidelined, while the league's present is being sold as entirely detached from its origins. How do you celebrate history while navigating a now that seems to care little for what paved the way? There are no simple solutions, which is exactly why reports suggest it fueled the outrage that broke on Christmas morning. The campaign wasn't merely about selling products. It was about reshaping the narrative of women's basketball, placing Caitlin Clark at the center as both story and destination. The change is irreversible. The true irony here is that Nike's ad didn't manufacture the imbalance of influence. It only revealed it in plain terms that couldn't be overlooked or misread. The anger wasn't about sneakers at all. It was about the control of the story slipping permanently. It was about acknowledging that a shift had arrived, faster than anticipated. The game now moves forward without waiting for league endorsement. The organization can preach collective gains, issue statements about teamwork, shared effort, and lifting all ships. Yet audiences have already chosen their hero. Once that selection is made on this scale, no amount of institutional rhetoric can reverse it. The reality underlying the holiday chaos is that the league now reacts to momentum instead of shaping it. Every step becomes damage control. Every official comment carries a defensive